All right, so for those of you that don't know me, my name is Nick Mosley. I'm co-founder of California Tiny House. I'm founder of Tiny House Education. It's a national nonprofit that works with high schools. We bring tiny house curriculum. And then I'm a member of various other entities, American Tiny House Association, Tiny House Industry Association, of which I'm vice president on one, board member on another. I just got appointed as a board member to the International Code Council to actually write the code of how tinies are supposed to be built if they're built in a factory-built setting. What I mean by that is what's called a mobile modular. It's something that's built in a factory, brought on site, placed, and is a permanent residence after that point. And so they're starting to let tiny houses be that way as well. All right, we got some more people coming in. Hi, Zach. Thank you, bud. Thanks for giving me your time. That wee bit of time. Oh, yeah, good. Yeah, for people that were on last night, hello, welcome back. Thank you. Yes, Lindsay. Thanks, Jason. Lindsay is awesome. She's a very close friend of mine. We have a good back and forth. So yeah, if you have stuff, questions during this entire talk, guys, please, whatever you do, just type them up. They go so fast that I'm not very good at reading them by the time they pass to the next one. So if I don't get to it, just go ahead and just resend it. Hi from New York. Hi, Jen. I'm in California. It's probably noon there and cold, but it's super hot here. It's like already 80 degrees. Oh, hey, you know what? Last night was fun. I do it all the time. I love talking to you guys, answering your questions. I'd do it even if I wasn't on this type of platform. Okay, real quick, so I don't waste any more time. I'm going to do another introduction, let you guys know who I am, why I'm on here, and what we do. My name is Nick Mosley. I'm the co-founder of California Tiny House. I'm the founder of Tiny House Education, a board member of the Tiny House Industry Association. I'm the vice president of the American Tiny House Association, and I'm a voting member of a committee created by the International Code Council to develop codes for tiny houses for the foreseeable future. The reason, our background, a lot of people want to know the story. How did you guys start building tiny houses? Totally get it. And I don't want to say ours is a whole lot different than other people. I came up with the idea in 2013 when I was on a trip with my friends. I noticed that a favorite spot that we went to had these really cool riverside cottages, and California zoning only allowed them to have 4, but they had 12, for probably 30 years. Well, those had to have been torn out because of new zoning restrictions, and they got down to just 4 of them. They were replacing them with travel trailers at the time, and it changed the way that vacation spot felt. It felt like a kind of like an RV park, the stigma behind it anyways. And so I asked the owner, why don't you just build a cottage on wheels? And the more I hung out and, had beers with my friends, the better the idea sounded. I brought that idea back to my family, my dad and my 5 brothers. I don't know if you guys know this, but I have a bunch of brothers. Like, there's a whole herd of us. And they loved the idea. So as it went and as it grew, we all started kind of expressing our talents. My dad's got, years and years and years of experience in the construction field. I've got brothers that are perfect website designers and SEO, search engine optimization guys. One of my brothers is our head designer. He's a professional photographer. I've got a brother that's a finished carpenter. So all of us combined are what created this business that you've seen, I'm sure, online. If you haven't seen us, check us out, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. I'm trying to read some of these as they go by. Okay, anywho, So today I'm talking about the how-tos of tiny houses. Now, thank you, Zach and Jason. That is the most broad subject you could have ever given to any human being. The how-tos. The how-tos of what? The how-tos of financing, the how-tos of building. So I'm going to try and cover as much of that as quickly. Yes, Zach says. I'm going to try and cover as much of that as quickly as possible. This is going to be very quick. I actually start my real time in like 2 minutes. So any amount of time we can get before that is super good. So let's start it out real quick. As you guys have questions, type them out. Don't type a full paragraph because I won't be able to read it in time. I'm telling you that. Short questions. We'll do it like speed dating. I'll just answer them as I go. The how-tos of tiny houses. Let's start with how to build a tiny house. That's subjective. Oh, how to permitting. Okay, I'll do this one. How to permit and zoning regulations. That's going to completely depend on where you're parking it. The how-tos of zoning and permitting in the state of California right now is a little bit easier. The state of California is moving leaps and bounds ahead of every other state to allow movable tiny house dwelling. Zoning and regulations fairly simple. Go to your city planning or your zoning department. Ask them if you're allowed to do this. If they say no, ask why. There's entities like THIA, Tiny House Industry Association, that are working on that globally. Shouldn't say that. Nationwide. They're working on it nationwide. Can't see or hear me. Ooh. Sorry, I don't know how to fix that, Tara. Let me see if I'm still on. Okay. Somebody said they cannot see or hear me. So I can't help you. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'll make you another video later, I guess. Okay. The how-tos of tiny houses. So let's talk real quick about how to build a tiny house. The main things that you want to consider when starting a build, especially if you're DIY, is find a good set of plans. And I'm not talking about going to, your neighbor who said that they've designed a set of tiny house plans. Find a reputable company, a reputable business. tinyhouseplans.com is a good one. They vet all of their plans. It's owned by Alexis and Christian, a close friend of mine, and a long-time tiny house dwellers. They've traveled 60,000 miles or more in their tiny home. Great resource right there. Start with a good set of plans, and then have a little bit of common sense and a little bit of wherewithal as far as safety is concerned and what you want to accomplish in the end. A lot of people have an idea because they see something that's out there and they try to mimic it. It's not necessarily the best idea. Find the tiny house that's right for you. There's a million design techniques. Design is by far the most important part of any tiny house build. A tiny house could take longer to design than it could take to actually construct. In fact, usually that's the case. So, how-tos, if you're starting a tiny house build as a DIYer, my best advice for you, plan. Design, find something that you love. Make sure you incorporate everything that you care most about before you do anything else. If your love is grand pianos and you have 6 grand pianos, you should have a house with 6 grand pianos in it. You're not going to have anything else, but you'll have the stuff that's most important to you. Can't stress that enough. Best way to design for weight distribution, 60-40 to the front. So 60% of the weight to the front, guys. Anytime you're designing, weight distribution is a massively important aspect of any design. It's probably the number one mistake I see DIYers make is they don't balance their house properly. And it's not something that anyone usually is going to tell you. Tiny house plans are out there. There's a handful of builders out there, and it's not a consideration that they take in. And I don't understand why. It is a safety factor, 60% to the front, 40% to the back. You still want weight in the back, so leave it empty. Excuse me. Don't leave it empty. But yeah, that's the big thing. Yeah. Zach is the $6,000 piano guy. So, and let Jason play a couple too. Don't hold out on your brother. All right. So how to build. If you guys have any questions on that, shoot them out. Questions are coming in faster than I can answer them, so I'm going to miss probably 90% of these. Plus, the text is so small on my computer that I can't read it anyways. Colorado rules are bad. So, Williamsburg. So you're not wrong on Colorado, Susan, but Colorado is working in a few other ways. I think Denver, Colorado Springs, there's a few cities that are working on it right now in Colorado. In fact, there's one from that Byron from Simplicity got. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's a cool one, cool city. Metal versus wood framing, great question. Metal versus wood framing, it's all personal preference. Some people like the metal because it's a lighter weight. I prefer wood. It's the most common building material in the United States, in the world, really. And I think it's a little bit more user-friendly for first-timers, for DIYers, people that want to work on their house after it's built by a professional, which isn't everyone. Some people want a sit panel house that stays the exact same thing for 10 years. And others want to remodel it and modify it and do fun stuff to it. If so, I would choose wood. And it's not really a weight issue for me. There's nothing wrong, guys. There's nothing wrong with a heavy house. The main concern is trailer. You want to have your trailer be able to support the weight. If you're going to build a 20,000-pound house, make sure your trailer's got a 24,000-pound capacity. That's the most important thing. It has nothing to do with weight. Just get a bigger truck. You're not traveling around with this thing very often, and if you're one of the people that do want to travel, then yes, do ultra lightweight frame, do ultra lightweight materials, and you're going to end up with something that's closer to a travel trailer. But if that's your main dream, their main goal into going tiny, then go that route. I like a heavy house though. Snow loads, wind, hurricanes, you name it. Whatever Mother Nature throws at you, a heavier house is always going to sit by and stand a little bit longer. So that's my wood versus metal, but both are fine. I just personally only use wood. What is easier to repair, wood versus metal? Wood, hands down. Hurricane tie downs. Yeah, if you're in a hurricane zone, yeah, absolutely. A lot of trailer manufacturers and a lot of tiny house builders. Once again, I can't speak for everybody because I don't know every single builder, but I know a handful of the bigger guys. They're going to have some type of way to use a tension strap that if you needed to tie it down, you'd use like a turnbuckle and you'd be able to tie it down if you're in an area that has like really high wind or hurricanes. All right, I'm just going to answer questions. I feel like that's more important for you guys. What are the rules and regulations in Florida concerning tiny homes? Florida is another state that's moving drastically forward. Now, with this whole COVID-19 situation that we're all in, everything's slowed down a little bit, or there's less public events to talk about it. That's probably the reality of things. Because city council members, people that are voting on this, they still know that affordable housing is an issue, and they're still working on it despite working remotely like we are right now from home. They're still getting stuff. We're still getting stuff passed here in California, and Florida is no different. The best resource for you in Florida, Colorado, Texas, New Hampshire, wherever it is that you are, is going to be the Tiny House Industry Association. Reach out, ask for, Lindsay, Janet, ask for Dan Fitzpatrick. You might not get any of the three, but you'll get the information that you need, I promise you. What's happening in the Midwest where land is still affordable? Same thing. Thea and Atha, they're going to be your best two resources. I know I'm a part of both of them, but that's a wormhole that I could go down and I'll lose all my time just talking about legislation. Excuse me. Website for plans again. Okay, so my friends, Alexis and Christian, happen to have tinyhouseplans.com. It's not the only website. I don't like to endorse anything. They're probably the best resource for tiny house plans at the moment. But then you can also get them from builders. Not every builder. We have plans coming out. Various other tiny house builders have plans coming out. I would take those pretty seriously. Anybody who's built, over 100 tiny houses has seen their fair share of triumphs and failures, and so they know what works and they know what doesn't work. And tiny house plans vets people really well, so that'd be a good suggestion. Are most people buying land first? No, not really, Jen. Most people, you can find land. Land, in my opinion, land takes a lot of time to find. You want to find a really nice piece that's going to work really well for you. I always suggest finding something with like a mobile or a house with no value on it. And the reason I would search for those type of properties is the utilities. Utilities are worth their weight in gold in the tiny house world. Going to a bare piece of land and trying to bring utilities on for a movable tiny is a challenge. It's not something that I would ever wish upon my mortal enemy. It is a pain in the butt. Find a property with a mobile or something that burned down or that's 200 years old and is falling apart, but has the power, water, and sewer that you need, or a well, solar, and whatever. Anything that you can find that you can hook up, even better. And it's not going to cost a whole lot more. Suggestion for finding a builder, key points on decision making. I hear this one a lot, and I'm biased because I am a builder. Come to me, everybody. But in reality, it's not true. That look and see the style of the builder. You're as you go through their Facebook or Instagram page or their website or whatever it is. Ours is California Tiny House and at California Tiny House. Very easy to find. Find a builder that has a style that you like. We have our own style here. You can see it even from the most different houses that we've ever built, because we do a lot of stuff custom. You'll still see our style show through. If you like it and that's what you gravitate towards, then we're going to be a good builder for you. If you gravitate more towards something different, I'm not going to name a bunch of builders, but if you gravitate towards somebody different, we might not be the right builder for you. So I'd say go with your gut on a builder that you like. Don't necessarily find a house and say, this one house is great. This is the one that I want, without at least spending some time in it and all that. It's really, really important, guys, to get a feel for what it is that you actually want. And don't sacrifice. There's no reason to do that. Just because it's a tiny house and you're going to have less space, that doesn't mean you have to be miserable. It's downsizing, not downgrading. Do you have any tips or tricks for building a schoolie? I don't. Jan, I wish I did. I'd love to build a schoolie, but I don't have any experience in doing that. So I don't want to talk about it, or I'd just be lying to you. Am I a zip system user too? No, I do not use a zip system. In California, it is difficult to get products that have chemicals in them. So like a Vantech and Zipboard and a lot of stuff like that, we can't even, they won't even allow that to come in here because it doesn't meet our green regulations. So no, I use plywood. We use CBX plywood, 5-ply, and we use Tyvek or similar house wrap. Do you have a 10 by 28 available? Yes, we can do that. Does California zoning for tiny somewhere? Yeah, California absolutely has zoning for tinies in various cities and counties now. And it's only growing. It's growing so fast that I literally cannot keep up with the stuff. Best resource for that is Thea. Um, Flooring, vinyl versus pergo or wood. Personal preference. I don't like pergo at all. There's some awesome industrial snap together vinyls. Cali Bamboo. It's probably the only company, the only brand endorsement that I'll give because it's just that good. It's amazing. 50-year warranty. It's great. And then wood. If you like wood, do wood. Absolutely. It's just heavy. But I like the moisture retention of vinyl. Virginia zoning. Talk to Thea. For any other zoning questions, guys, go to Thea. It's too broad of a statement or too broad of a question for me to answer. And we've got like 18 minutes left. So I want to get... cork floors. Cork floors are absolutely awesome. Super soft on your feet. They feel amazing. They're not good with pets. They're not good with kids. If you have people that are spilling a lot and stuff, they're very porous. You can imagine your kid spilling a bottle of milk. It goes into your porous floor. It gets gross real quick. Financing. I heard that question. Financing for tiny houses, the Achilles heel. If this feels like speed dating, guys, it's because that's how much time I have. Financing is the Achilles heel of this industry. It's getting there, but it's not perfect. There are banks that will still lend, smaller credit unions. Go to them, talk to them. NADA listing, which is a National Automotive Dealers Association, a lot of the bigger builders are going to be a part of that. That's what banks use to get the information on what the value is of a tiny house, and that's how they're going to be able to perform the loan. Otherwise, it's just going to be a guess. A lot of people still use Lightstream. It's a big personal loan, essentially, but but it's fairly easy to acquire. 10 foot wide, totally worth it. Yes, no argument there. 10 wide is totally worth it. Are there any storage containers manufactured in the USA? I have no idea. My guess would be no. But storage container tiny houses? Yes, there's a handful of companies that do it. I'm not a huge fan of storage container homes because I think that you could build a house that looks like a storage container if you like that look for less than it would cost you to buy the storage container, convert it into the house. A lot of people see that low price tag of a storage container, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, but you could build the frame for a storage container that size for probably, I don't know, $600, and have it framed and then cover it with corrugated steel. I don't know. There's just not enough. There's just not enough there for storage containers for me. Liberty is one. Yep. Problems with skylights. So I hear this all the time. You see skylights everywhere. The only problem with skylights is it's a big hole in your ceiling. Is it going to leak in the first 10 minutes that you have your house? No, not necessarily, but it is. If you do not have a skylight in your house and you have a solid roof, you have a better chance of it not leaking than if you have a big hole in your roof with a skylight. Skylights are awesome. They let a lot of light in. Bamboo floors, cabinets, expensive? Yes, bamboo is very expensive. I don't know who said that because I can't read the name anymore. But it's awesome. Super sustainable. Really, really good against water. Very, very hard to work with, though. If you see a lot of people using bamboo, it's hard. We use bamboo countertops and flooring all the time, and it shoots sparks out when we cut it because it's that dense. And that's what makes it such an awesome product, though, because it's it lasts a very, very long time. Any good house remodelers out there? Okay, so any good tiny house remodelers? No, I don't know of any tiny house remodelers. And I think the big reason for that is there's not a lot of tiny house companies that want to remodel other people's houses. It's weird. In California, I get builders from all over the nation sending houses in California. And so I see a lot of other builders' houses, and people ask me questions about them. But I'm always hesitant to answer questions. I mean, myself and my family, we see things that they do wrong or that is a problem that the client's having, and it's usually something that we just kind of like, we don't necessarily want to mess with. Wool insulation versus rock wool. Rock wool is going to be a lot easier to get. I don't know who said that question. But rock wool is like a company like Roxwool or something that you could buy from my Home Depot versus sheep's wool insulation. Despite, having a very similar R value, it's just a lot harder to attain. What is rock wool? Rock wool is an insulation that is fiberglass free, that is derived from rock minerals. That's pretty much the only description for it. And it works really well. It's a cool product. But yeah, rock wool is a lot easier to attain. You can buy it at Home Depot, I think. What are goosenecks? A gooseneck is a trailer that has a deck and then an elevated area where it hooks to the back of a pickup truck. So a gooseneck's nice because a smaller truck can carry more weight. So whereas for a 20,000 pound house, you might need a ton and a half, which is like an F450. You might need that to haul that type of house. But with a gooseneck, you might be able to do that same 20,000 pound house with an F250 because a third of the weight essentially is carried on the truck's axles. And it goes kind of over the bed of the truck. Do I prefer gooseneck or fifth wheel? Thank you, Zach. Great question. Gooseneck were developed as equipment trailers, so they are a little bit more squared off. I think it's a little bit easier and more user friendly for a tiny house dweller, especially because you get to keep the bed of your truck. If you guys ever go online and you love goosenecks and you want to travel, they have awesome wraparound water tanks and sewage tanks and stuff that actually sit in the bed of your truck so they don't take additional weight when towing, that are specifically designed for goosenecks. If you go and look at a lot of like horse trailers that carry a ton of weight, or big heavy duty equipment trailers that carry a ton of weight, like those 30,000 pound tractors, they're all using goosenecks versus fifth wheels. I think it's more personal preference than anything. Both are good. I like goosenecks. I think they give you a little bit more storage capacity. Is somebody willing to do a repair on a tiny house that has an AC leak? You should be able to call an HVAC, any HVAC guy. And if you can't, I don't know. Most HVAC contractors will be able to work on a tiny house. The thing about a tiny house, guys, is people think that there's special contractors or there's special people that you have to call. For any of our houses, they're built just like a standard house in California. You can call a handyman, a contractor. You can do it yourself and use YouTube, because as soon as you open the wall, you're going to see the same thing that every other, stick built on a foundation house sees when they open their wall. There's no difference. So for a lot of that stuff, I would call a local contractor, but I would talk to your builder first. Always talk to the builder first, because they might have some recommendations for you. And I can't speak for every single builder in the country. What about denim insulation? I don't know enough about it. I don't know the R value. I know that I know a handful of people that have used it, and they like it because it's more green and they're using something that's sustainable. But I don't know enough about it to answer somebody What are the downsides to a 10-foot wide? If you really, really want to travel in your house day in and day out, somebody like Lindsay Wood, who was on with me last night, or Alexis and Christian from Tiny House Expedition, traveled 60,000 miles. A 10 wide would have been a nightmare for them. Other than that, if you plan on moving your house maybe once a year or maybe once every 10 years, I see no downside to a 10 wide at all. Unless you only have 8 feet to park it in. Then don't do a 10 wide because it won't fit. Man, this is Decks that travel. I have my own opinions. A lot of this is going to be my opinion, guys. Decks that travel. I don't like decks that travel. I don't like fold down decks. I don't like anything like that. I feel like you end up with, once you start doing too many things that travel with your home, you make sacrifices. So, if you want water storage on your house, you're not going to get as much as you would ever get if you parked it and put a big tank of water. Traveling in your house, you're never going to get unless you do a massive solar thing, you're never going to have the power that you'd have hooked up to a grid. And same thing, goes for decks. You end up with something that's a little bit lighter weight, a little bit flimsier. We offer these bolt-on decks that you kind of modular piece them in, but they feel like a regular deck once you have them. And most people don't move their houses very often, so that's something that I would I'd probably just steer clear of that kind of stuff. Add a deck later; it'd be less expensive, anyways. Lifespan of a tiny house on wheels. We call them movable tiny houses now. The word wheels has a negative connotation. But lifespan of a movable tiny house, depending on who builds it, it should last for a very long time, 100 years. I can't see any reason why. I mean, you still have to maintain it, don't get me wrong. If you have natural cedar siding, it's not going to last forever. You have to, oil it. You have to maintain it. Same thing goes for the inside. Are you going to remodel that house over the course of a century? Yes, absolutely. But if you take care of anything, it's going to last longer. Your tires, however, on your trailer, those are not going to last. That's just something that everyone has to deal with. What do you recommend for an interior vapor barrier? I don't recommend stuff. I don't recommend too many different products because there's so many out there, and I like certain things about some and not about others. I would just do research and find out what you like about it, and then use the one that sounds the best in your mind. What about trailer corrosion? It's gonna happen depending on the trailer that you buy. When I say trailer, I'm talking about a movable tiny house foundation. These are specific trailers for tiny houses. A lot of the components of those already are designed to carry the weight of a house for a much longer period of time than, say, your average car trailer. That's why they're built that way. That's why they look that way. And it's important to understand the difference between car trailer and movable tiny house foundation. It's apples to oranges is the difference. They absolutely have corrosion protection in place. Now, if you're in areas like Hawaii or Florida or New Zealand or something, and there's a lot of humidity, you're going to want stainless steel hardware. Why? Or galvanized, something that's not going to rust out. But for the most, continental U.S., a standard trailer is going to last for a very long time. I mean, very, very, very long time. And the things that are going to go first are going to be your tires and possibly some screws and nuts. But those are all very easily replaceable. Skids versus wheels. Skids versus wheel, two different entities. A skid tiny house is what's called a factory-built house. Even though it's constructed in the same exact fashion, once it gets to the property, it's got permitting, it's got property tax, it's got all the stuff that a normal stick-built house would have. Whereas a movable tiny house does not have that. So two different entities, both are fine depending on the use you're doing them with. Have you built trailers that are in New York? If yes, where? No, we do not have any that are that far east. Most clients that come to us from areas like that, I'll refer them to friends of ours that are on that side, unless they really, really want something built and shipped across the country. It's just expensive to ship them that far. Take tires off, parking for a long time. Yeah, so depending on where you're at, taking tires off is a great tool. A lot of municipalities, the tires being on it is what makes it not a permanent. It's what makes it a movable structure. So they need to see those tires. Now, that's not everywhere, but what you want to do in that circumstance is I would take the super nice tires that came with your trailer or came with your tiny house foundation, and I would swap them out for something. Once your house is all leveled and raised up and you're not putting the extra weight on it, I'd put some cheapo tires on there. Let the sun destroy those things, and then save, oil and bag your nice tires and save them. And they'll last for, 5-10 years. What are your thoughts on shipping container homes? And do I offer slide outs? I do not offer slide outs. I think it's more of an RV thing. You don't have slide outs on your home or an apartment or anything like that. Anything mechanical like that that could cause a leak or be a weird insulation thing or a place for critters to get in. It's not our business model, but we do have some stuff in the works to have tiny house additions that are like plug and play bolt-ons that will work really well in a similar fashion, but have a better seal and be a little bit more permanent. Container homes, guys, they're not my favorite thing. It's not because I'm a tiny house builder. My lifelong dream is to build a badass container home. I really want to. The rules and regulations, however, in California make it very difficult to do. I find that, building California building code inside of a shipping container and then also having to do a facade on the outside, by the time I'm done with that, the shipping container was just extra cost. I could have built that exact same thing for less and wrapped it in corrugated steel. Opinion on bed lofts that come up and down mechanically. Once again, there's a term that my family and I like to use called TV tiny houses. And there's nothing wrong with them. Oh, I'm running out of time real quick. There's nothing wrong with TV tiny houses, but it's if you're not going to, if you don't have to raise and lower your bed right now to go to sleep at night, and you haven't done that for the last 10 years, it's not something I would recommend. I've got 44 seconds left, guys. My name is Nick Mosley from California Tiny House. The best way to reach me, CaliforniaTinyHouse.com. You can also do caltiny.com, tinyhouseeducation.org, or tinyedu.org. You can also reach me through the American Tiny House Association, the Tiny House Industry Association, or you can, just pretty much just ask anybody and you'll find me. Thank you guys so much. I wish I had more time. I could probably answer your guys' questions for like another 9 hours, but I'm down to 10 seconds. Bye. I love you. Thank you all for being here. Zach, Jason, thank you for giving me the extra 10 minutes I desperately needed. Nick out.